Get started, hey, because we've got a little bit to get through tonight. So, first of all, welcome to Prep Week, and thank you to all of you for taking on our 2019 Summer Challenge. We're really looking forward to it, like we always do. But this week, Prep Week is actually my favourite week of the challenge because it's a week that I think everyone, really gets a lot out of. So. The first thing that you should have received as part of the challenge was did everyone get an email with their Prep Week workbook in it? And if you didn't, it's on the Facebook group. Here comes a couple more. Couple more people now. Yes, I have actually just got my old copy with my notes on it. Yeah, so don't worry. Yeah, it's just my old copy with my notes on it. I'll just make it look like Helen and Penny are just coming in there. So, and I actually know that some of you have already started because my phone has already been dinging with pictures of pretty spectacular looking fridges and pantries, and people have already started to do those things and clear out. So that's really good that they're already onto it. But we're going to actually talk about that a little bit later on. But the first thing we're going to talk about is we're just going to get straight into what we call our guiding principles. So there's three things that, are really going to run through the challenge, three sort of coaching principles, and they're the things that we want you to keep on referring back to, and they're the things that will really help you stay on track over this next 8 weeks. So, three guiding principles. We've done a lot of these challenges now, and I've decided to kick off with these straight up because it's amazing how many people really beat themselves up when they feel like they haven't done things perfectly. So the first of our guiding principles is actually just knowing how to get back on track as soon as you can. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later on, but that's the first principle. The second one is about setting your baselines, and really what we're talking about there is how you're going to set your goals. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about some ways to do it that will really help you stick with your goals, so you're not relying on willpower and motivation, which obviously will wane throughout the 8 weeks. The third thing, and this will be a work in progress, is we're going to keep on reminding you, to focus on what really matters. There's so much information out there about what you should and what you shouldn't do, but we really want to help you avoid that analysis paralysis type of stuff, and really help you focus on what really matters so that you can just act now. You can really get stuck into it and know exactly what you're doing. So, first one, know how to get back on track ASAP. So, during the challenge, it's actually all about change, and it's actually trying to make change easier for you, because that's the only way that these habits are going to be able to stick, okay? So it's really important to understand that change involves lots of ups, there's lots of downs, you're learning and you're backtracking, but all of that is really normal. So that means it's really important to be kind for yourself and acknowledge that sometimes, life's going to get crazy, things are going to get busy, you might fall off the wagon for a day or two, but if that happens, we want you to invoke what we call our clean slate policy. So, if you feel like that's happened to you and you're starting to beat yourself up about things, we want you to just wipe the slate clean, okay? Just start again and just take that next positive step that you can take to keep moving forward. Sometimes people have a day where they have a big blowout, but it's really important to realise that over the course of this whole challenge, that blowout actually makes no difference, okay? Because you're in the challenge for the long run, for the 8 weeks. If you have a day or two where things aren't going your way, that's fine. What does make a difference is if you have a blowout and then you think, stuff it, I'll blow out this week and I'll blow out next week. That's what makes a difference. So it's really important that just get back on track, don't worry about it, it's all good. I think I put this up on the Facebook group, didn't I? So we really want you to just basically be thinking about, you're right, do you want to come down? Oh, come down. Come on. The second principle is, we're going to talk about setting your baselines, but really what that's all about is goal setting. So, any reason why you think setting goals for something like this is a pretty important thing to do? Why would you think you might want to set some goals before you get started?
So you have something to strive towards.
That's exactly right, Simone, exactly. Because if you don't set the goals, you don't have anything to aim for.
Yeah.
You know, you really don't know what it is that you want to do. So therefore, you know, you're not going to be able to make those changes that you need to make. So that worksheet that you've all got there, this worksheet I actually pulled out of the workbook to keep, because I want to keep it separate, because this is something that I want you to keep referring back to, so I really want you to keep it handy. And if things, we're going to work on this at the moment, and you're welcome to fill it out a little bit if you want to on the way, but also, you know, obviously you're going to work on it at home as well. But the really important things about setting your baselines are, what we're going to do is give you what's called, you know, just what's going to be the minimum amount of exercise habits, the nutrition habits, and other health goals that we're going to be focusing on. We're going to set what we call some minimum targets, okay, so that you know and you feel like you're achieving no matter what's going on. We're also going to go a step above that as well, but if we work on setting what we call these baselines, it means that no matter what's happening throughout the challenge, you're going to feel like you're moving forward and you're making some progress. So, excuse me. But these baseline targets are actually what we call behaviour goals. So they're the things that you're going to do. The step before you do that is that we want to talk about what your outcome goals are. So your outcome goals, which is what the first sheet of your worksheet focuses on, your outcome goals are all about what you want, whereas your behaviour goals are all about how are you going to get there. How are you going to do what you need to do, okay? Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? Anyone got any questions about that? The place that you need to start is looking at, you know, what is reality for you right now. And you're looking at your current situation. So current situation means how do you feel right now? What does fit mean for you at this moment? So, you know, you might sit and look at this and go, you know what, I feel overweight, or I feel stressed, I feel menopausal. So it's all about considering how you're feeling mentally, how you're feeling physically, and there is an exercise in your workbook that's all about limitations, and it's about just going through, well, you know, what is it that's holding you back? Because if you want to work on some goals, there's usually something that's holding you back, and we need to work out what that is for you. So that's the first thing that we need to do. The second thing is your vision and what you know, what do you want? What's your destination going to be over this next few weeks? So what do you want to feel like? And what do you want to do? What do you want to be at the end of this next 8 weeks? And the third part of setting your outcome goals is obviously knowing your metrics. Okay, the metrics, we've gone through that in your workbook again, but on the back page of here is just a section where you can summarise what your metrics are. So, when I was saying about, you know, starting the change process, what we often do is we think about what we don't want. So in this first part, which is your current situation, and you're working out, you know, your description of how fit feels for you now, you often can work that out about what you don't want. You can nearly go backwards. So you don't want to be carrying, it might be excess body fat. You don't want to be feeling out of shape, and that may be how you're feeling right now. Maybe you're on medications you don't want to be on. Maybe you don't feel good about yourself, or you feel out of control with things like your eating. So that's a really good place to start when you're looking at your current fitness and how you're feeling about yourself. But that's not going to get you to your action plan and not going to get you to your vision of where you want to be. So you need to think about what these don't wants, what's the implications of that for you, okay? So if you don't want to be, you know, feeling overweight, well, that probably means you do want to be a bit leaner and a bit healthier, okay? So you need to start flipping those around and moving from your current situation where you are and filling it out on this side of the sheet, and then flipping it around and going, you know what, but this is what I want to be. I want to be, or I want to feel a certain way. I want to do a certain thing. Maybe you want to run a marathon. Maybe there's something in particular that you want to achieve. So the tip about, you know, where you want your vision to go to is just think about the thrill and the joy that it's going to give you when you get to that point of where you want to go. Okay? So that's how you're working out what your outcome is and what your destination is going to be. You know, I think it's really worth pointing out that, you know, that promise of the, you know, those fitness cliches of the six-pack abs and the bikini body and the big guns and that, you know, they might inspire you to show up for the first few weeks, and, you know, maybe you might stop drinking or something, you know, for a month or so. But they're also easy to give up, because at the end of the day, you've got to work out, well, how much does that really matter to you? You know, if you're not a fitness model or a, you know, bodybuilder, in the whole scheme of things, and you know, you look at those things that you value, you know, there's lots of other reasons for you to get fit other than those, you know, fitness cliches and superficial reasons of, you know, wanting that, the six-pack abs and things like that. So, excuse me. So basically it's about, you know, willing to just dig that a little bit deeper and work out what your true motivations are, because if you do that, it's going to be way easier for you to stick to your goals and stick to what are your behaviour goals, okay? It's really important to just push through and just try and discover that real purpose that you want to change, and, you know, what's really going on for you. So, you know, a couple of examples of that are, you know, you might start out saying, I want to lose some weight and get fit. But it might be because, you know, your mum had diabetes and you're actually going down that same path. So there's a reason why you want to get fit and healthy, and that's because you want to avoid diabetes. You want to avoid something that's going to cause you pain and stress. You know, maybe maybe you're a parent or a grandparent and you're too immobile to keep up with your kids or your grandkids. You know, if you really value that quality time with your family and your kids, well, that is a true motivation for you to really want to do something about it. So you really need to, you know, dig a little bit deeper. Maybe, you know, you're not the kind of, you know, active, inspiring parent that you want to be to your kids. You're not the role model that you want to be to them. So you need to really find that thing, that passion inside for you that's really going to make you want to change. Okay? So the last part of that is you want to feel a certain way so you can. You've got to work out that so you can is what is it that's important to you. Yeah? You want to get fit and active so you can hang out with your kids, go play soccer with them, whatever it may be. Yeah? Does that all make sense? Your current metrics, and a lot of those things are covered in your prep week book, but you know, they're the things about what you're going to measure to make sure that you're making positive progress towards your goal. And those measurements are different for different people because it's dependent on what your goal is in the first place. Okay, so you've really just got to measure what's right for you. And on that second page of your worksheet, that's where you've got a little list of it there. So you can pop those measurements in there. We had a little bit of a chat with a few of you about an in-body scan. Simone was asking. In-body scans have got great information on them if body composition is one of your goals, improving your body composition. Gary actually has got some great scales that do that what's important to you, and measure that. Okay. So once you've worked out all those pains, once you've worked out what's your pain, and you want to turn it into action, that's what we call your setting your baseline goals. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about behaviours that you're going to actually carry out to get you to where you want to be. So the way that I've done this worksheet is that, you know, I've got a gap there. So basically you're here, you want to be there. These steps that you're taking, that's what's going to fill that gap for you. Okay, that's what's going to help you get there. So, first step for behaviour goals is starting with some baseline goals. And the baseline goals, the aim of those is just to get good at doing the basics. We want you to do the basics, but we want you to do them regularly and you want to do them consistently. The reason why we want you to do that is because that is going to get you results way faster than random bouts of exercise here and there and random sticking to your eating habits here and there. Okay, so we want to keep it simple and we want to keep it so that you can just get good at doing those basics. You'll see on the second page there, that's your behaviour goals on the second page of the worksheet. But I've actually broken them down because as we go through the challenge, we're going to, our workshops are going to cover all sorts of topics. For instance, next week we're going to go into a little bit more about exercise, and we're also going to start on what nutrition habits are going to support that exercise. But for you this week, I really want you to have a go at setting some of those baseline goals for exercise. Just do it yourself, because actually what you come up with is always the best ideas because you know that you can do them. And that's exactly where you've got to be coming from. You've got to be coming from, you know what? This is what I can do. This is what's going to be my baseline. This is what I'm going to stick to throughout the challenge, no matter what. Yeah? Why do you think that we would set those baseline goals?
So we don't opt for Easy Street.
Yes. Yep. One, so you don't opt for Easy Street. But the second reason is because it's really common for people to set their goals way too high from where their starting point is. So it's really important that these goals, these minimum goals that we're talking about, they're the ones that you know, you feel like that you can achieve. Because if you set your goals too high right at the outset, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, you're going to give up because you're going to feel like that you're not making progress. So you're going to have actually already, set yourself up for failure, basically, because you're going to feel like you're not making progress and you're going to feel like you're not achieving the expectations that you've set for yourself. So I want you to have a think about what your minimum exercise sessions and your minimum exercise habits might be. Think about it this week. And then start implementing them as soon as you can. And we'll talk about that. We're going to expand on that a little bit more when we all come back together next week. So I started to touch on this about, what happens when you set your goals too high. And what happens is that you feel like a failure. And you feel like a failure, but in actual fact, you're achieving because you're still making progress. So you just need to make sure that you set yourself up to win from the start and make yourself, instead of constantly falling short of your expectations, actually meet your expectations and feel really good about it. When you do that, that's what makes you feel happy, and you're not going to get to that frustrated, overwhelmed, I'm stuck, I'm going to give up. Okay? So we don't want you to feel like you're a failure. That's the last thing that we want you to do. So, to summarise those, your baseline goals are like your minimum goals. We're going to set those for all 4 areas of health that we're going to focus on. So we're going to set them for exercise, for eating, for stress management, or you can choose another goal of your own, and we're also going to go into some sleep as well. But your baseline goals, basically, they allow you to feel like, you know what, it's okay. If I hit this, I know that I have achieved something. So they make you feel like you're moving towards your expectations, and they're what we call your what's enough goal. You know what, if I get this, I'm going to be happy, this is enough. Okay, if you do that, you're obviously going to move out of failure and into success. So that's the reason why we start with that. But there's actually a next level of goal that we really want you to think about as well. Okay, and the next level of goal is just what your target goal is. And what your target goal is, it's something that's just going to be a bit of a stretch. Okay, so your baseline is something that you're really confident that you can achieve throughout the challenge, throughout the course of the challenge. But your target goal is something that's going to be a little bit of a stretch. It's something that's going to take you out of your comfort zone and into what we call productive discomfort. So you're out of your comfort zone, but you're still pretty confident that you can achieve it. And so what happens when you do that is it allows you to elevate out of your minimum goal and just go to something that's a step higher. So, you know, those weeks when you're feeling really good and life's good and there's not some additional stresses going on, well, you know, you might be able to aim to, you know, get to a couple more exercise sessions that week, or, you know, so your target goals, what they're all about is just making sure that you are not, you know, if you feel like you can go further, we want you to do it. But at the same time, your baseline goals are, you know what, I'm going to be happy with this either way. Yeah. So there's two types of goals there. So as I said, for this week, just think about those exercise goals. Maybe you want to think about it in terms of, you know, how many hours or, you know, how much time you've got. And then, for instance, your minimum goal might be, you know what, I've got 3 hours I can dedicate to exercise this week. But then you need to work out what's the smartest way of dedicating that time to it. Is it coming to classes, or is it that actually I can't get to 3 classes this week, so maybe I need to schedule in a ride or a swim or a walk or a run, but actually go about, you know, setting up, okay, 3 hours. Your target goal might be, but you'd really like to get to 5 hours. And if I did that 5 hours, what's it going to be? And ideally, it's going to be a mix of some strength and resistance training, some aerobic, you know, maybe a little bit of interval work, and also some recovery. Okay, we'll talk about all that next week. So everyone think that they can come up with their exercise goals in this next few days, yeah, and then we'll work on it a little bit more next week. Gary's come up with his what did you call it, Gary? For goal setting. Do you think it sounds a little bit more inspirational, setting in that way, than the old SMART, you know, what is it? Specific, measurable, I can't remember now.
Achievable,
realistic, and time-based, yeah. Hopefully these ones are going to be a little bit more inspirational for you to set it this way, number one. But number two, you can set those goals that way, but unless you know how you're going to achieve it, it makes no difference at all. We could all sit down and write something that meets, you know, that those SMART, measurable, achievable, attainable. But at the end of the day, yeah, if you don't know how you're going to close that gap of where you are and where you want to be, it really isn't going to make any difference at all. Okay, so that's goal setting, and I want you to keep those worksheets, like maybe bring them to each session if you can, and keep them out to remind yourself what it is, what your targets are, yeah? What your minimum targets are, what you're going to do each week no matter what. And if you're feeling really good about it, and if you're finding they're achievable, we'll go for the next level up, which is your target goals. Yeah. Okay, any questions about any of your goal setting stuff? And that's what's really good with these tasks, because it just brings about awareness of where you're at right now and what you need to do to get to where you want to go. So the tasks are just becoming aware of what you're doing and what you're thinking and what you're feeling, examining some of your current behaviours and habits, exploring those things that are holding you back, and also just trying some new and different things. Obviously, there's lots of things that you need to let go of if they haven't worked for you before. So we're going to work through some new and better choices for you. Okay, the first task was, and we've touched on this already, is about your assessments. So, some things never change, and these steps never change when it comes to a challenge, because it's really important that you've got some baseline data for you to measure your progress. So, criteria for what you're going to assess is, does it measure progress towards what your own personal goal is? Because for a lot of us, the scale and body weight doesn't give you a full picture of your progress. So consider other ways to tell that you're making positive changes. So lots of things in there that you can do. There is the body composition measurements. There's performance assessments. So if you haven't done any with Gary lately, touch base with Gary and go and do those. Visual assessments. We don't expect you to, we're not going to strip down, and we're not going to take photos of you and publish them all over the internet or anything like that. But it's good for your own personal use. Some people have done them for us and they've sent them through to us, and it's amazing what changes that we've been able to see. So please, actually, I think Heather might have done it last time, didn't you, Heather? And because you don't take notice of it every day.
It is a distinction, it's not naked.
Oh, no, I say that. Your mood, your confidence, your sleep quality, all those sorts of things are really important to measure. I don't know if anyone read, I put a Facebook post up the other day just about one of the people who did the challenge with us last year, whose goal wasn't at all about weight loss. It was actually all about mental health. Really struggling with the mental health, and just what a difference that it made to her doing this. So, it's really important to acknowledge all of those things, that the exercise and eating well, and really working on some of our, the tasks that we do in terms of how we respond to stress and all those types of things. Combined, they all make a huge difference to not just how you look, but also, what's more important is how you feel. Okay? So rate those things that are important to you. One thing that is really important for some people is actually getting a blood profile test. Obviously, that's optional, but the thing with getting a blood test is that it actually tells us what's in your blood, and by extension, that tells us what's in your body. So one of the most logical things that you would have a blood test for is if you thought that you might have some problems with your blood sugars, okay? And how the change in exercise and how the change in diet helps control your blood sugar levels, and in turn, what that does to your overall health. So if anything like that, if you think that you have any type of cardiovascular risk, your blood sugars, if you have a risk with glucose, carbohydrate intolerance, that type of thing, go and get a blood test this week before we start, and then see the changes at the end, and see what you see the benefits of it. So lots of ways that you can assess that. So make sure you do that, and then just keep that little summary on the back page of your goals so you know what you're doing. The second thing that's really important is creating what we call the healthy food environment. The reason why we want you to do that is because it makes things easier, basically. There's three particular things that it does. The first one is it actually puts you in control of what's going on. It puts you in control because the old thing of if a food is in your possession, you will eventually eat it. Okay. Thinking about how your environment can support you or stand in the way of your goals and your challenge journey. Okay, so I just think about what changes you can make to make, you know, your environment work for you and not against you, and make it actually match your goals and also match your values. You know, think about, you know, if you really value your health, well, you know, you need to start to think about, you know what, I really should value more what I'm putting into my body. So start thinking about those types of things. It also means that, you know, like in Karen's case, it also removes the prep week tasks. I talked about going shopping, didn't I? Did I say that? Clean out your kitchen, go shopping. There is a essential shopping list in the back of your workbook there, so it gives you some ideas of what you should go shopping for. There's lots of things that can help you go shopping. I personally internet shop because occasionally I might go out to the New Woolies at Shell Cove because I actually don't mind that. But in general, internet shop, because then I'm just always ordering what we use. And I click and collect, or I get it delivered. You know, there's places, you know, you can even have your meat delivered now.